So anyway, the podcast is starting now. So, gentlemen, we have a conversation today that I want to get out of the way very quickly. We were just mentioning it just before. Just because the terminology "no dramas" was used in that Jackson article does not mean that
I can't believe you
me.
approached a journalist like that. I can't believe you've gone out of school in this way.
All right, so I just want to make it very clear to everybody that I am not involved in this incident whatsoever, in any way, shape, or form. I go to bed. I'm not awake for any of these incidents. I'm the grandpa. I wasn't there. So that's fun. Okay, we all good with that. We understand. Is no dramas exclusively mine from here on out in esports? Am I the only one who's allowed to say no dramas?
I
think according to Reddit, yes. According to
Okay.
Reddit, it's not yours. It's been trademarked.
I thought it already was.
I don't know. Look,
I mean, if it was actually Chad, the article would have read something like, and then Config got into some argy-bargy with
And
a member of the broadcast
this bloody cunt.
the profanity used. I don't
Yes.
know. So yeah, just want to let everybody know that no. And the thing is, when I saw my name coming up with the no dramas thing, I'm like, okay, fine. I can see how maybe they're making that connection. I was working at that event. That's all right. But when it starts to get to it gets in these moral murky waters where people are acting like, yeah. Anyway, I could go on for a while about this, but I kind of just wanted to address it at the top even, to deal with it. But there was one message I wanted to read, and I thought that this one, sums me up quite nicely. This one read, I bet the fight was with someone like SPUNJ. He seems like a narcissist to me.
Nice.
That was on HLTV. They didn't make it to Reddit. The stuff on Reddit was quite humorous. Someone said something about the fact that I beat Titan 16-9 at Cologne in 2015.
Yeah.
And it went on. They said not only that, he top fragged the game with 27 kills and 1.65 rating. The OG fragging in-game leader. SPUNJ walked so Fallen could run. SPUNJ invented in-game leading. So, the internet can be funny.
I mean, the top comments were funny to me. Petition to have his name changed to Conflict. And then the second one, or Convict. It's like,
That's not
but I
bad
think Akon has that one trademark, so yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I think HLTV tends to get a little bit more aggressive in the comments.
Definitely.
You're going there if you're angry and you're going to the gym afterwards and you want to feel something real personal, dig deep into your ribs. You go to HLTV for that.
There is a bit of that vibe, right? That I can see that. I can see that for sure. But look, reading this stuff again today, and I understand we talked about this stuff previously, so it makes sense if we want to keep talking about it now. But talking about this shit is kind of just this sounds like so hippy dippy. But it's it's killing my vibe a bit, gents. Every time we come together, I don't want to sit here just fucking bitching and moaning about this nonsense.
I feel like I have to say something because
Here we go.
I mean, I wasn't there for the actual thing. I was close by, so I was, a part of
First on the scene.
kind of breaking things up, and then sending people away, and so it didn't really feel like all that much to me. The whole thing, at that particular scenario in Cologne, felt like blown out of proportion. In my opinion, there was no need to get the police involved. I feel like we've had those things like that happen before, at events that just weren't really made public and people didn't know about it. And it was fine. It's just, that was argy-bargy, it wasn't like the Malta situation where, he was obviously seriously injured. It was more pushing and shoving and whatnot. And so it was, again, still unnecessary and it was stupid. But, I feel like all of that, all the dramas, and this is me saying it, not Chad SPUNJ Burchill, could have been avoided, right? So I for me, this is not really that. Obviously, still, I mean, as a player, you shouldn't get into those sort of situations and whatnot, right? You should know better. I still think that. I still stand by that. But this wasn't really a massive sort of fight or anything along those lines, right? It was just some drunk, unnecessary stupidity.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I too was sleeping during that time, but even hearing the stories, it was just like this is a situation that felt like, or the one in Cologne was a situation where I think 4 or 5 years ago, no one would have ever heard about because it wouldn't have been a big deal. And obviously it's the size of the game that's growing that makes it so. For me, I think at this point, I'm just whatever. Like, he's obviously made some horrible decisions. He's obviously a little bit of an idiot, getting into some of these, putting himself in these scenarios. But at this point, it feels anything I say like is piling on him, which also feels unnecessary.
Yeah, that too. I mean, I hope he cleans up his act a little bit and comes back refreshed and still is able to play on a high level. That would be an awesome like sort of comeback story, right? Redemption story for Config. So there's nothing more. I agree. We should like definitely close this chapter in the book of Config and just see what happens in the future, whether he's able to deal with everything or not.
It's just there's just been like a slow like drip of the information, right? So it's like this is dragged out over a long period of time, where it's still like the same end result, right? He's still no longer a part of Astralis. He's still recovering from the injuries that he sustained. None of that really changed. I think it's just the way that people perceive the situation. There was sympathy. There were, a lot of people flip-flopping back and forth, between different angles of this situation. But the thing is, it's like, this is what I was just saying. I don't want to come here like exclusively week in, week out with three guys I want to have a bit of a laugh and shoot the shit with and exclusively bitch and moan. And it's like, man, that's so draining just thinking about doing that.
You know what it is? It's like, I don't know if you noticed this with other like dramas. I think it's just the way that like the new world of like content and like YouTube is engaged. I've been thinking about this a lot. This might be a little bit theoretical, but it's like, it's no longer like the news about Config comes and goes. Like all these like news articles and everything like that is like fine, and it's one thing. But the problem starts when the drama starts becoming the content for all the various like people and creators also within the industry. So then you get like all the different, Richard, fair play. Richard can make content whatever he wants. Anyone can really, but Richard's at least established in the scene. But when you start getting like the various like podcasters and starting getting the various YouTubers and start getting the various social media people all like using it to pump their interaction because it's the big story, and then it just kind of coalesces into this like weird like content storm that you can't really handle. That's when it gets stressful. Like, the story's fine, and if it just lived its life cycle for a day and moved on, but then when you get like 4 YouTube videos popping up about it that are getting recommended to you, and all the tweets and all the people trying to make a little bit of joke at the situation, you're just like, it's so draining. Give me something else. Like, Navi extended contract for 3 years with Simple. That's great.
The thing is, like, it's not one of these situations where, because at the end of the day, this is a form of entertainment. Unfortunately, it's like the Big Brother house on somebody's life and their misfortune, right? And maybe some people will look at this as a lesson. Maybe some people just look at this and go, oh, the Counter-Strike player got in trouble in this kind of situation, whatever, right? There's a lot of different ways. It's from I forget the saying, but anyway, it's to do with where you're standing, right? The angle that you're looking at the situation. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, I want our entertainment to be, more like, if we have some villains, for example, let's look at the way that, I don't know, I guess Cadian's probably the best example of someone that's perceived pretty consistently as a villain, right? We obviously have the whole Hunden cheating scandal situation that's going on, but he's always been quite a vocal guy. Not everybody loves that type of a celebration. Seems like he has some beef with some certain players, but has a good work ethic. He's a really lovely guy when we talk to him and stuff, right? But he's like a competitor with everything that goes around the game, and some people like that, some people really don't, and that's reflected in the fan base as well. He's got some fans, but he's got some people that really don't like him. So he plays the heel, I would say. We don't have too many like heels, as we're looking at like actual entertainment in Counter-Strike and more like the game, as opposed to something like this, which is, it's stuff that's happened outside of the game, but it's affected real life. It's like, I don't know, it doesn't do anything to our game to be entertaining. It's just like around the outside. It's like window dressing. Okay.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think villains are awesome. I mean, you go back, for example, like Flasha and that Fnatic lineup, right? A lot of people consider them to be the villains there, right? So I think that's great because it allows you to build storylines, and it's so much cooler. Or, for example, who was it that was it Fallen who said, in Copenhagen, we're going to make this place a library, right? Even though Fallen is probably... Fallen has that sort of other persona, the bad Fallen, right?
He did it at that time.
Yeah, right.
He at least pulled it off when he talked the shit. Good for
him. So I think for some like stuff like that, it's cool. It's like great storytelling. And as also for people to realize like that's showmanship, right? And that's part of also trying to maybe play with your opponent's head a little bit. It's all part of the game, right? Because I'm saying things like that in front of your crowd in your arena, that doesn't mean after the game is over I'm not going to shake your hand, right? Or I'm going to, say go fuck yourself or whatever. Like, that's just being a dick. That's just not, that's the opposite of sportsmanship and gamesmanship and understanding what it's all about, right? So yeah, I think it's absolutely like awesome, right? As long as it's within boundaries, as you say, right? That people not getting like spat on and shit.
Oh no, there's crazy stuff like that starts to like intensify, right? That stuff's ridiculous. I saw a video the other day. I think it was football players like driving out of their stadium and their car was getting kicked by fans. I'm like, this is just fucking ridiculous. I don't know what the football players did, but I would assume it's probably no reason to kick their fucking cars, right? Anyway, talking about like the villain idea and all of that, do you think that our game, like our form of entertainment, like every other form of entertainment, needs like, do people need to play those type of roles, or do we just think like the natural personalities in Counter-Strike should do the talking, or is it somewhere in the middle? Because not everybody's the personality type to be something like this, but maybe we need more of that to build more storylines outside of the already established ones, because some storylines like beefs, like it's fun, if you want to start talking about storylines with like players falling out or changing teams, and that's what we try and do with some of these games when we talk about it. Like in the start when Astralis were taking on Vitality, when dupreeh and Magisk made the change, that was a big deal, right? Like they're going up against their big team, their old team, and we're trying to build a bit of a story there about that matchup. Is any of that even like relevant, or is it more we should just focus on the game and let that do the talking? Because the human element is the thing that sells to most people, and then you get them interested in the details, the minutiae, the technical. So like, I guess we do have a lot of, human stories when we think about it, right? Like there are a lot. It just depends on how you build them and where you frame them from. And to us, looking at it every day, maybe those stories aren't as exciting as they should be. But we have some pretty cool ones.
I think we can certainly do more. I think part of it is, even players will tell you, like, I think the content side of things for like events has just become so stale and so similar event to event that those kind of personal angles don't really get. We don't really dive deep into them anymore. And I remember like back in the good old days, we'd be down at like the bars having some drinks after the games, and the players would be down there too, like getting a little drunk and having dinner and having a few drinks with everyone before their games over the next days. And obviously that doesn't happen anymore. So I think we kind of miss out on some of the old ways we used to gather the information of what level that personal beef is at, but it shouldn't be a hard thing to find. I think like establishing someone as like an actual villain, so to speak, is probably a difficult thing to do, because I think outside circumstances, like, if you take the example of Cadian again, if Heroic wasn't embroiled in that giant cheating scandal, I don't think we'd be talking about Cadian as a villain in any way. I think he would be, I guess, more of, I don't know, like he'd be like a Joker, right? He's like a chaotic anarchy kind of a personality versus any kind of like cruel or mean villain that you would really establish.
Well, I think it's also, for example, if you're cheering for a team that Heroic is playing against, and then you see him screaming his lungs out when they win a big round or something, he's definitely the villain for you. I mean, right? There's no doubt about it. But I agree with to Chad's point. Like, I don't think you can really force that on people and fake it. Like, look at Cloud9's players, for example, right? Like, everyone except Nafani is really quiet, and you can't paint someone like that, Shiro, or Exile, he's so sick on the server, he's a bully on the server, and then you try to do some sort of a like hype piece around him being a badass. It's like, he's just a dude who, loves playing the game, and he's sick at the game, and that's it, right? And you respect that, and you create some different sort of content around him. But what I think we should be doing is building an environment in which the players are allowed to showcase the personalities that they have, right? Like giving them either tools or just simply enough giving them space to either come on the broadcast or have more open type interviews, right, where they can just talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about, showcase their personality. Example being someone like Campus, right? Every time we talk to him, it's a pretty awesome interview. Like, we get good information, and he's very honest in those. Yakindar is probably another good one, right? And there's different examples of that, and I think the more you see that as a viewer or as another player, and the more the players themselves interact with us as the talent who's asking them these questions and are participating in this sort of content, the more relaxed they're gonna feel, and we're gonna have more players, be open to something like that, and also be open to showcasing their personality. Remember how many times we've had earlier a player either tweet something like before the game, we're gonna crush these noobs today, and then it doesn't happen, and then they get so much hate and from all sides, even sometimes from us as talent at the time, whether it's on the desk or something, whatever, which wasn't great, but then how do you expect people to ever do it again?
I mean, ironically, the best example of that is Config, and look how that's going for him.
Yeah, so I think under the right circumstance, it can be a little bit maybe encouraged, right? And we can see more of it, but I don't think that it's something you can just manufacture, right, out of thin air.
No, because I think too, even think of some of the other, if you want to go back to the Fnatic and Flusha and JW as villains, back in the day, those motherfuckers almost quit. They hated that attention. You have to really accept the fact, and you have to really understand that you are going to be hated and disliked and targeted constantly by fans. Otherwise, it just won't work, because I mean that's kind of the problem I think right now is with how intertwined some of the players and the industry is to social media and Instagram and YouTube comments and Twitter comments and Reddit threads or whatever it might be. I think the players are so closely tied into how they're being perceived by the community that nobody wants to be that target. Nobody wants to have the negative,
there it is, Jason. I found it.
Yeah, but I will say this though. I don't want people to go on stage in a major semifinal and say cheer for them as well, guys, or may the best team win. It's come on, man.
Oh no, that's some pussy shit.
Good luck. It's no. I never when I was playing. I never wrote good luck. I always wrote have fun. Why would I wish you good luck? I wish you the worst luck. I wish you to have every bad timing. I only want.
I hope your mouse breaks. I hope your keyboard explodes.
I want only my team to have the good luck because I want to beat you. I want to win, right? So definitely, I don't want any of that pussyfooting around and oh yeah, let's all hold hands and fucking sing Kumbaya together or whatever. You're competitors. You're playing against each other. You're competing for the same thing, right? Off the server or whatever when you're not playing games. And of course, it's good to be friends or whatever. But when you're competing against each other, give me at least. Don't give me the same generic answers, right? And oh, we're gonna play whatever. Give me something. Obviously, you go into every game thinking there's a way to beat your opponent, even if you're, I don't know, ecstatic and you're playing against FaZe. You're coming into the match, you're preparing, and you're thinking, okay, if these 10 things, and it has to be 10 things, one after the other, they all go our way in a perfect fashion, we can do this, right? And that almost never happens, and that's why we don't see upsets like that really happen. But, with teams where it's more evenly matched, tell me some of the reasons why you think you're going to beat. If you're, for example, Heroic playing FaZe, why do you think you will beat them? They're the best team in the world, but you're not a bad team. So where do you think your advantages lie? Without obviously giving me the specific anti-strat and saying, oh yeah, we're going to focus on this guy and do whatever, right? Just say something yeah, we think, maybe they're a bit overconfident at the moment and we feel like we can punish that. That's awesome. That's a good answer for me, man. I don't want to be greedy and ask for more than that.
I feel like you're both well, there's not that anyone had to be wrong, but I think that
but you're both wrong.
No, two sides of the same coin here, right? In the sense that I think that Jason's is bang on that the community has intentionally or not helped to mold the way that these players interact. If you look at how a lot of them tweet, for example, they'll just tweet during the Swiss stage and they'll just tweet 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, job done, going to the legend stage, right? And I'm not saying that they can't just tweet that, that's fine. But in terms of having the personality that you're talking about, Yanko, and it doesn't have to be a bit of sass, but and we can talk about this from personal experiences. I'm sure, Jason, when Liquid were going up against EG or another North American team, there's a joke being made, Naf, making a slang about, I don't know, some guy on the other team who's the B Yankee. He's yeah, mate, watch me fucking bully this cunt the whole game, right? You're G'ing each other up. you're talking a bit of smack within yourself. Like, oh, he's going to be all like your AWP versus AWP battle. Like your AWP has gone, man, I'm going to make this guy my fucking bitch this game. They're in the team. You're talking each other up. You're keeping the mood up. You're not sending the team shit. But that's the type of conversation that's being had. But that doesn't often get publicly expressed, right? And that's fair enough. I understand that people don't want all of that out there. But I think that there needs to be a middle ground. And that's what takes me back to my question of, do we need, like, not necessarily a heel, but that type of personality in what we're doing, or is it fine the way it is? Do we need the players to come along for this ride and bring that extra entertainment element like a karrigan would do? Or do we just, this will just naturally progress, and when we shouldn't force this? This isn't something we should manufacture, like, Vince McMahon doing some WWE type shit and telling Kane not to speak, or The Undertaker, whoever the fuck it was, so the monster seems scary. You were talking about Cloud9 before. You tell them not to speak, because we can't really talk to them on a whole massive scale, and then we could build some crazy story about them being this like stonewall fucking team that's gonna smash you, and they don't say anything. We could be the puppet masters of that. Jason, you want to get out your glove?
Yeah, I do. I'm ready to fist some puppets. That'd be great. I think too, like, if you pick and choose the players, like Yanko brought up the good one of Hampus, and we all know this, like. Hampus is a guy that, he doesn't, I'm not going to say he likes to talk shit, but like he doesn't mince words. He doesn't smooth the edges, does he? He like puts it all out there, exactly what he thinks. And he did it wonderfully. I think was that in Cologne? He gave like a really sick interview as well, where he basically said like, yeah, we don't think they're very good in this aspect, and exactly what Yanko kind of mentioned. So I think with someone like him, with like karrigan can obviously do it, although Karrigan's more of like the entertainer in terms of getting the crowd on his side more than like, building up any kind of like emotional rivalry within the game. But, there are players that we know that we can probably steer in the right direction and kind of unleash in that general area to kind of get what we're looking for. But you definitely can't just like fake it. You can't just bring someone in and be like, hey man, I'm going to ask you these 3 questions, talk some shit. Like, this is what I want you to hit. Like, no one's going to want to do that. And that's just going to fall flat.
Yeah, but I think something that we could do at probably, I would like that to be our job to do it to an extent is, for example, Chad, when you were interviewing me for some of those pieces, you kind of let me know what you're looking for, right? Like, you don't put answers in my mouth, but you're telling me, hey, yeah, like, this is a sort of this is what we're trying to do with this sort of a content. So I know, okay, so this is like what we're aiming towards. And also what you mentioned about Cloud9 specifically, maybe we can present them absolutely. Like, that's, again, our job, or let's be realistic, it's like the job of the organizer and whoever's creating the content, but we have a lot of input there. Like, we can present them like that, as long as we're not falsely presenting them, and we're not at that point, but we can find ways to hype them up without really changing who they are, right? Like, and that's absolutely, a storyline for Cloud9 is, these guys are, very quiet, they're not super outspoken, they just live and breathe CS, right? They've been together for such a long time, came up from the academy team, were the best team in the world for a while, trying to find their footing still on like the major stage. That's all true. That's nothing, but with the right shots, with the right, maybe, background music or whatever, it sounds super hypey, right? Just think of all the pieces that Alex was doing, Machine, for Cologne, where he's just describing kind of the teams, but he scripts it like so well, and it's such a hype piece. No, at least for me, it's like super hype.
Yeah. I think you can also, I think there's like a world in which, because I know I think we've all done this. I know I definitely have. I think there's a world too where like you can kind of make up for it as the broadcast talent, right? Where maybe we take a stronger angle in a certain direction than we otherwise would, or maybe we really like embellish like a certain angle or belief that we have to a point where it can kind of make up for that lack of kind of like smack talking and lack of like edge to the analyst segment. Like, I've had plenty of segments where, if you think back to like, I don't know, some kind of like dominant stretch from a team where like after like 3 or 4 events of basically saying these guys are the favorites, these guys eventually you're just like, fuck that. This segment is so boring. We've had this one 20 times already. I'm taking the underdog in this one, and I'm going to spend the segment just bigging up the underdog. I'm going to say these guys aren't as good in this area. Like, as broadcast talent, you can kind of manufacture that yourself by trying to just embellish some kind of an angle from the other direction as well.
I did this to Duncan on some segment at the Stockholm Major, and then in the post game,
I bet it just tilted in my face.
He hated me for it. He's already started in the green room. Oh, how did you talk me into it? But I did exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, like it's fun. Like I've done it on plenty. I remember I did it with. Actually, this one's kind of funny. I remember I did it at an event with Dus Morat, where he was one of the other guys on the desk, and I went into a segment and I was just like, Dus is going to talk first, and I'm just going to take the counter to everything he says. I'm going to say the exact opposite. I'm going to make all the complete opposite 180 points. I just went at it. It was fun as fuck.
So you were
me.
just using the gravitas that you possess, Jason, as this massive broadcast talent in NA to squash your...
It wasn't done to, bury
colleague.
him or anything like that. It was just kind of...
he does a perfectly good job of doing that to himself.
But like, things like that, like hopping. That's why it's always kind of been that's always next gen. I've never really had the issue, I guess, since I've worn a few the different hats when you go from casting to analyst. I never really cared if someone called me biased when I'm on the analyst desk, because I think it's fun to have that kind of an extreme example on one side to kind of, get a little bit of excited or get a certain fan base excited. Like if I'm going to go out on a desk and, I'm already being pointed at as the North American guy. Yeah, I'm going to big up the North American teams beyond what is reasonable in any way, just because it's a little bit of fun and allows a little bit of a back and forth and a little bit of a discussion. And casting, you try and rein it in as much as you can and as much as you possibly do. But when you're on the desk, I've never had a problem being yeah, I'm going to be a hardcore liquid homer. It's just as I'm sure, Yanko, you've had a few segments where you've never been too stressed about being a hardcore Nico homer. You try and contextualize it in some reasonable points, but there's definitely some moments where you can break out and just be the hardcore fan for a moment and just enjoy yourself in that.
Well, it's just that he's just such an insane player, Jason. It's all the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look,
it's more Chad than JKS basically.
Yeah, that's everyone has a fun one, right? Everybody has to have one. I don't know. It's all a bit of a weird science as well. And then another one that's always a thought, and this is probably a good thing when we can start looking at the bigger picture of the major that's coming up, right? It's quantifying how these teams are going to win, or who's going to win, and who's going to beat who, and looking at some of these little details. Because talking about the storylines for a lot of these teams, this is the first big thing that you identify going into it, right? Well, you have to start from out of the break. So you start from out of the break. You take a look at the landscape as it is, and Na'Vi and FaZe are considered the best two teams in the world. They just had the banger grand final in Cologne. We had a break. Everyone had a bit of downtime. A couple of roster changes we saw, and then you go, okay, let's wait and see what these roster changes have. And most of us, sitting on the pundit fed, sit and go, okay, well, with 2 weeks of practice, going straight into their first officials, these teams are very unlikely to be great. The other alternative is they have a honeymoon period and they look great, right? We get both. You sometimes get even a middle option where they're just similar to as they were before, and it's hard to tell if they were any better or worse after these changes, right? You get all of these options, but you know that the team has only been together for a short period of time. So you throw in some of them that have found success, into the hat with FaZe, Na'Vi. You can throw Vitality in there now. I think Liquid are in for a good conversation. G2 not qualifying immediately removes them. But then in actual conversation for who could potentially win the major, I feel you have to throw names like Cloud9 and Heroic.
No, Chad, please.
What?
Don't throw Cloud9 in there. Don't throw Cloud9.
Why not?
Neither. What have they shown you? What have they shown you that makes you think they can win the major?
But this is the thing. I don't think
how
that
close
there's
were
any team here that can beat everybody.
Either of those teams to win in Cologne?
I think it's so matchup specific. I think that if they get to a situation where it's Cloud9 taking on FaZe, I think there's a real opportunity that Cloud9 beat FaZe. I was looking at it today, right?
Which doesn't matter because they have to play at least one more team in the playoffs and they will lose to that team.
Yeah, but I'm talking about who's going to win the major. Because if fucking Cloud9 knock out FaZe and then it's Cloud9 versus Na'Vi, then yeah, I think that Na'Vi are probably going to win. But it matters on who matches up against who about who can make it, right? I can't put a broad stroke. Because I had a look at Na'Vi. If Na'Vi play FaZe in any point that isn't the grand final, I think that Na'Vi are in a bit of trouble. I think grand final a little bit different, but I don't think they'll beat them in a quarterfinal or a semi-final. But if the Na'Vi get a different side of the bracket and FaZe get knocked out by Cloud9, then I think Na'Vi could win. You know what I mean?
I'm similar with Chad, kind of looking at this, where I have like a list of like 5 teams who I think if they hit like a streak or they have some favorable matchup or a good path to the grand final, that I have as teams that could potentially win the major.
I don't think there's a clear favorite.
I don't think there is either. I have Vitality, FaZe, Liquid, Navi, and Cloud9 as the 5 teams that I could conceivably say on a good day, on a good weekend, on a good run, on a good matchup, could go through the bracket and win the major.
Liquid can win the major.
Well, who's going to win then, Yanko?
Why not? Who you got, baby?
I
don't see why any of these.
How
names can't
you
win the
looking at
major.
this?
I have FaZe because FaZe is the favorite until they're not anymore. Like,
But it
Well,
doesn't
yeah,
feel like they're more than a car's length away. It feels like people.
I agree with that.
But that's why, like, you can just from the standpoint of going, they are the favorite, but there's no clear favorite, right? Like, let's say that we were talking about FaZe, and then who's the next closest team? Are you still putting Na'Vi?
Yes.
Okay,
And
but
then
how close is it from FaZe to Na'Vi?
I think it's closer Vitality to Na'Vi than Na'Vi is to FaZe, but not by much. I think all these teams are really close. Like, let's say, just how we had at the last major, it was FaZe and Na'Vi, and then a couple of empty spots, and then everyone else, at least in my head, right? That's how for this tournament, it's, again, FaZe and Na'Vi, and I would put now Vitality there as well. Like, they've shown me now that I can put them there, that they're still, on that good streak. But they have to play the fucking Showdown, so we'll see what happens there. I think they would have much preferred to just, not have to do that right now. Obviously, I'm not going to say just lose the first game because you want to be at the fall finals and so on. But I feel like those 3 teams are grouped. And then you have teams like Liquid. I don't want to say Cloud9's name.
But you're going to. You almost walked right into it.
I will say Outsiders. I will say...
You're putting Outsiders above Cloud9, and you're giving us shit for Cloud9.
Outsiders could great, but this is the thing. I think
Yes.
Yanko is being I think he's being a bit harsh, Jason, to Cloud9. But Outsiders is a reasonable one. I would flirt with them in the conversation as well. I think you and I are looking at this a bit looser than Yanko is. I feel like the fanfare of all of this is going to play such a massive impact in this major. I don't think it's going to be a clear cut.
Yeah, for that reference,
I'd even throw NIP there before Cloud9.
Bloody hell.
Yes.
Wow, you've come around. The last episode of this, you were teeing off on NIP. You're sold. I guess the question is,
You know what?
Is NIP a honeymoon team, or is this some real shit?
At the moment they are, but they're going to fall off a little bit. But this might work potentially. Listening to their comments a little bit as well in that video they posted. The main problem, guys, I have with Cloud9 is the fact that they just can't
win the big
do
game.
it when it matters, right?
Yeah.
Like, and their falls, like their dips are so deep, like it doesn't make any sense for a team whose floor should be really high, right? Like you can't lose to Astralis and Liquid in Cologne. You just can't after winning Dallas and this being your first next LAN. Like that can't happen. And then again, you win, you beat FaZe at Pro League and then you lose to Liquid again. It's like, if you want to be considered a contender, like that can't happen. If they beat FaZe and then lost to Na'Vi or Vitality, then you say, well, okay, that's always going to be a tough game no matter what. But especially Liquid at that point in time, they were playing better in Cologne than they were at Pro League. I think at least that's how I looked at it.
But they went to the grand final of Pro League.
Yeah, well, who did they play?
Their group stage was pretty rough, right? That's where OC was missing.
They played Fnatic, then they played Mouse, then they played Cloud9.
If they didn't have such a rough group stage, if they had a great group stage, they would have had a much harder path.
Yeah.
Probably would.
Yeah, so that's my problem with Cloud9. I have no belief in them winning a big game. So they might make the playoffs, they might not, because they also botched the last major, losing to Imperial.
That's true.
Are we not forgetting that? Like, how can you? The question: why are you guys turning this on me? The question is, how can you put them there? Not how because they have Exile and Shiro.
I think they're still building as a team. I feel like we've been back in this type of a LAN environment for only really this year consistently, right? Like last year we had, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 events back in this type of environment, and these are pretty young kids, right? Like I think they're still like early 20s, right, for a lot of them. And I'm glad that they haven't changed roster just yet. I think that this major is like a real proving of what you're saying here, because it's all building up right? Like eventually something will break within the team where it's like, yeah, we can't make any more progression. But if some of these things are teething issues for the players, like to have more, I don't know, more experience in this type of environment or whatever it is that they need to harness. This is where you would think it would all come together, and this is why I'm having that conversation that I think they're a team in the mix, because I don't think that FaZe are that far ahead of the pack. Like I think, like I said, I think if we get FaZe versus a Cloud9, I think that Cloud9 can win that game, for example, right? And then that could affect the whole who's going to win the overall major, which is kind of the angle I'm looking at this from. Like I'm trying to build my elite teams who could go on to win it, right? You just mentioned, Yanko, the teams that Liquid beat, right? So for you, in that sense, like Mouse and Fnatic, they're not elite level teams, right? Where are they? Like on the cusp of the top 10 at Fnatic.
Yeah, I like both teams, the way they play, like how they're playing. I think Mouse definitely doesn't have the experience. They proved that at Pro League, so they're not gonna, they might make the playoffs, but they're not gonna do any damage.
They just lost in Rotterdam.
Yeah, exactly. And they lost to outsiders, and they had like an 8-0 lead on the third map, and they lost 16-12 on Agent, I believe it was, in the end. And that's why I don't have them, and that's why Mouse, that will change at some point, but that's not for the next 6 months.
Yeah, I don't think they're an elite level team.
I have them as a quarterfinal team at best.
Yes. And that's like, the problem is also with this fucking book holes or whatever, you don't know who's gonna meet who in which game. So that's why, like, you know how, this is why I don't consider Liquid a contender. Liquid cannot beat in the same bracket both, like, 2 out of these 3 teams, Vitality, FaZe, Navi. They can't do it, right? They could have a really good day against one of them and then beat them and have a little bit of luck who the other teams are. And again, Liquid cannot beat either FaZe or Navi in a final. They cannot beat them in a final. Like the only
not even
way
a best of 3 final?
No. They can't do it. Like they're just not there yet as a team. Like this is what I mean. You have to go through certain things as a team, or players have as individuals, before they're ready for a step like that.
Well, 3 out of 5 have, right? 3 out of 5 have, but it's
never won a major.
No, it's true.
None
it's
of
true.
them.
It's true. But they were an elite level team, right? Competing for trophies,
Yes,
and they've been on big.
absolutely.
Yeah. But I know what you're saying. But and I think what I was going to bring into this was the fact that Yakinda, even though he's played on stages, and similar conversation for OC, but like OC would then have to be an elite level AWPer on stage when it matters, right? Because he's a key piece, and Yakinda would have to deliver in the same way. Like, and that right there is where your conversation, Yanko, like that's where your side of looking at Liquid in that way is probably the more realistic side. But the other side of things, and that's why like this conversation, if you think like, and those are big stretches to make. I could make a stretch that like Naf, Elige, and Yakinda just go fucking bonkers. Like those 3 just are on this massive heater over the course of the event, right? They're already in the legend stage. They come out hot and they get straight into the playoffs. Then after that, what happens in the playoffs, I don't fucking know. But like I could make that like argument, and I could hype that team up and frame them from that angle. With obviously the omissions of, is OC going to do what he does, and what's Nitro's contribution is going to look like. But your angle of not thinking they can win the major is more likely. But I feel like I don't know, what percentage would you put that they could, right? This is an interesting kind of angle, because it's impossible to complete. There's a few teams we could probably completely rule out, right? Like there's definitely some teams from the smaller regions who are going to come. They're going to play their couple of games. Maybe they win one best of 1 and get close to best of 3, but that's it, right? We know that's going to happen. But there has to be, like, I don't think that the major is clear cut just the top 3 right now still. Like I feel like there's an argument like that can be made. There have been crazy runs at majors before.
Of course, because you may have a quarterfinal game like in Stockholm, which was Vitality Navi.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the biggest problem with this is like and I think there's a massive chance of that happening. Like there's always one quarterfinal that is like just ridiculous, right? So I think that's why it's going to be tough, and you can't know that. Like if, FaZe and Navi, for example, hypothetically have to play in the quarterfinal, well, obviously the odds for Vitality winning the whole thing go up by a lot, right?
Yeah.
And relative to that, for a lot of the other teams, my point is only like, for me, I always look at not just how good how well a team is playing at the moment, but what are the personalities of the players? How many big games have they played? How many stage games, major playoff games, and so on and so on. Like, because it's such a change in, you know, the environment when you have to play that. It's like, you know, it can overwhelm you, and there's nothing, you know, that's sort of normal to some extent as well. That's to be expected, right? That's why we have this thing called experience, you know.
But
so,
isn't that why when some team like Spirit makes it so deep like they did, that's the exciting part, is because it's against the expectation. Like the story is these kids, they've got no experience in this type of environment right here, and then they still come out and Dexter and
taking
Patsy.
it too.
Absolutely, but they're
and
Russian.
That's the fun
Chad.
story.
Because and Russians don't give a fuck. Like people from CIS and the East, like they don't care. Like you look how Patsy is playing. You remember how Patsy was playing against FaZe in that series? Like that was ridiculous. Like he's playing against the world's best team, the world's best players, and he's just interface all the time and he's owning them. It's like he pushes after 10 seconds B tunnels with the op and kills Rob, who's just waiting for him, who's like one of the best, you know, T-side anchor players in a default, like who's the least punished and whatever, right? But I can't say that for a team like Mouse, they shit their pants. Team for like Fnatic,
No, he's right, because they try and play by the book, so they won't have the balls.
Right, a team like NIP, I don't put them in. I put them somewhere in between, right? Like they're a team that can play very well, but this is, you know, it's as simple as this. And I've experienced this in some of my teams. You play default and things go, you know, you do it step by step and people are talking, give me a flash for this, molly that, I'm going to smoke this off, let's take mid. And then there's a big game or a stage game or this or that, and all of a sudden there's less talking going around, less asking for stuff. And then you're stuck, even as a coach or as an in-game leader, doesn't matter. You're like, wait, I used to have like brackets control at 1:35. Now I don't have it until a full minute. And then while I'm taking banana, I'm supposed to, you know, I want to come back, I want to fake like I want to finish B and come back to A. And the guy on A has a smoke, a molly, an HE. And I'm like, how does he have all these nades? And then you realize, well, we're not aggressive enough. People are not taking enough initiative. So we're not baiting out the nades. So it's much more difficult for us to finish rounds now when they have a lot more utility than we're used to, for example, in practice or even official games in different stages of tournaments. Right? Yeah. And that's something where you have to have, like, you know, not just a sit down talk, but people need to be aware of that, and you need to like sort of drill that into their heads that, hey, these things need to remain the same no matter the opponent, no matter the stage. Like that's what it means, playing your own game, right? But it means like keep doing things the same way.
Isn't this conversation, right? Because we should dig into some of these like theories that we bring up more, because one of the things that I realize is when we talk about these things, we have a really good idea of what we're talking about, but we might get there in different ways, right? Like showing our working of this is, I guess, talking a bit of the deeper theory. So with what you're saying here with this communication aspect, and this is why teams, when you hear them in post-game interviews, they go, oh yeah, the comms were flowing, is exactly what Janko is talking about here, in the sense that like your star players or your playmakers, everybody in the default, like whatever variation of the default you have, understands what their role needs to be and what the theory is in the map, right? But if a player, you know, gets a weird start to the game, right? I used to have some players I'd play with who, if they didn't get a couple kills in pistol round, they were pretty quiet, right?
Yep.
Like, and the thing is, you want these players to come in and be, it's not stupidly confident. You don't say, hey, half wall flash me out banana insta, I'm just going to run and dome this guy. It's like the sense of, all right, so I know they're going to throw this deep molly, so we're going to counter molly after that. All right, molly's fading, throw the flash now. Like, and everybody's doing their job as part of this, and those comms are going. As soon as that dies down and dulls down, the whole cohesion of the team is basically gone, because everybody understands those concepts, but everybody's doing them to a different rhythm. And like that type of communication and everything going well, it can, like, it's weird how some players do it one day and they don't the next. And you wonder if it's like, is this just because they started the game with, you know, they encountered a molly they weren't expecting, or they died in a way they weren't, and are they already tilted? Is it something outside of the game? Like why? Because it's true. You see it with AWPers a lot.
Yeah, it can be super small too. I mean, the difference between like someone, I know, like I've had, you know, when I was coaching Liquid, we had a match where someone would hear like a scope in like lane on Inferno, and 9 times out of 10 in practice and in other matches, I'd heard him say, hey, throw this specific flash for me, I'm gonna peek, I'm gonna swing on this, he's gonna get blind, he's right here at this corner, throw the flash. And then you hear him go into a match where he's a little bit reserved and communication isn't there and the energy's not up, and all you hear him say is like, hey, be careful, there's an op at this angle. And like, you know, not like as proactive as taking those kinds of stances and
Yeah, not
actually
wanting to make
applying a little bit of
mistakes.
pressure. Yeah, exactly. And it can be just as small as that little detail of like, trying to handle a situation versus simply warning teammates. And that can throw everything off massively.
Yeah, it's a weird one as well. I think one of the things that I always have to keep reminding myself, and I don't mean this in like a derogatory way, when I hear myself saying this back in videos, I'm like, man, I'm such a fucking boomer. But like I'm talking about the kids, just like the younger generation of the players, right? Like these 16, 17, 18-year-olds, like they're also maybe not always the most keen at communicating. Remember, we always have to have quiet players as well. And these are all things that go into being an elite level player, and you have to try and settle all these things. And it's so much stuff, which is the mental side of the game, which when we're talking about these teams, we don't know that level. We don't know where that bar's set. We don't know what's going on in the server. We don't know the mood in the server. We don't know if, X versus Y had a fight yesterday because they couldn't decide on how they want to take fucking banana control. But we know by being involved in all of these teams that these conversations are going on, or there's a mood, or that like this shit exists on like a regular basis. And then you're talking about these teams without knowing any of this because you just have to judge them on the Counter-Strike that's played in the server. But some of them make it easy, right? I remember like when Liquid were in their fucking miserable period, just the look on their faces while they were playing, I was like, these motherfuckers don't want to be here.
Even when they were in their happy period.
Yeah, well, there's always a better place to be, man. Always a better place to be.
I mean, some people do, and I know like some people, some teams like the Liquid one with their expressions are sometimes pretty indicative. I think it was pretty obvious as well. Like sometimes you can see it in like gameplay, right? Like sometimes you can just tell a team is like really, really off. I think the easy one would have been FaZe at this past RMR. Like you could just tell, like still really good team, but there was like some things that just weren't connecting in the ways that we were used to seeing it throughout the year. But that's also why like they're the greats. And as Yanko said, they'd be the favorites to win this major is because I would say that they played a pretty shit RMR by FaZe standards, and they still went through 3-0.
And probably one of the reasons another reason why I would add to why I'm favoring them is they won tournaments and big games not playing great. I don't want to say a game, but I don't want to say they played bad, but they can play much better than they did, and they still won games. And you guys know that one of the things I hate the most when teams say in pre-game or pre-event interviews, whatever, if you play our A game, we can beat anyone. Let me tell you something. That's true for the top 30 teams. Like if, we saw in Pro League Endpoint beating Navi 2-0, right? When Navi was having a shit game and Endpoint probably played their A game, right? But you're going to play your A game once every 30 matches, maybe, right? Like the best game that you can possibly play, and everything's gonna work out just as you've drawn it up and whatnot. So the point is, you should always try to raise your floor as much as possible and just give your players options, right? But what I was gonna say, so look at the team. We had a specific example from the RMR was Fours, right? Like we could tell, like, oh, they seem a little bit tough. They're allowing these comebacks. Like that's uncharacteristic of them. It's also for any team to not close out a 14-5 lead on CT side of Inferno. Like something has to be going horribly wrong. And then Jerry also tweeting, who doesn't tweet a lot. And then what happens a couple of days ago, right? They just announced that they're benching 2 players. So these things, we're not making them up, guys. It's like it comes from one thing leads to another, and it's just how team dynamics kind of work.
Yeah, well, I guess this is all it's all tied into the broader conversation we're having here today, right? About the villains and this is the personalities. It would be fun, right? Like, I guess people would be mega different if we had everybody mic'd up all the time, right? But if people could see some of these personalities that they make assumptions about and see what they're like in a team dynamic and everything, I think it would be, and I don't necessarily mean eye-opening and just take that from the negative standpoint. I think there'd be some of that, but I also think there'd be a lot of stuff from like a positive standpoint to see how some of these individuals are like role models for the other teammates, their like work ethic and stuff. And that's under the covers, I suppose. I don't think we'll ever get to that level of
we will
I
understand.
think we will.
So? Yeah.
I mean, but look at also how much it shapes a player, like the Nico clip from E-League. Shut up, shut up, shut up. That's being memed about. Without context as well, right? That he was talking to Chris J, who was talking about the previous round, and Nico wanted him to focus on the round that they were actually playing and focus on the game, right? So that's why players don't have really faith as much, for TOs, because like if twisted, like it can create an image of a player that's, you know, it's hard to change for a while.
Yeah, I guess one of the things, I don't know how you feel about this, Jason, is the megaphone that a lot of these players have. And I understand it. There's certain things that could look really bad, right? But there's also things that come out and there's an image of them. They have the platforms to be able to set this straight, right? Everybody believes the player first, right? That always feels like whatever they say, it's gospel.
But I don't think they have I don't think they have the experience in dealing with it on that scale in terms of controlling like the messaging around image. This is where you'd want like to have someone within the organization, like a PR staff dedicated to the 5 players who could be like, oh, this Nico clip is popping off of him telling his teammates to shut up. Everyone is thinking Nico's like the Wicked Witch of the West. How can we, have someone from PR come in and say, this is how we're going to handle the situation, that we control like where this conversation is headed? Because, that's just what happens when you have something like that out into the world that is in no way being attempted to be controlled, when just the masses have their hand on it, and when the random people who may or may not like Nico able to make a comment in a Reddit thread that gets upvoted to 200 points, and all of a sudden a random Redditor comes in and thinks those 200 points like lends it a lot of credibility, and then that just becomes the story. And that's just how it works. And that's where you'd want there to be a little bit better, a little bit more professional of a damage control from a player and organizational perspective. But in no way should that ever be necessarily the concern of the players, even though it most definitely is, because their persona matters.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where there's a big disconnect, is they probably feel a certain level of helplessness to be able to avoid those scenarios, while also just like, because, I don't know, they have the microphone, but, it's so that kind of shit, as we know, because we've been part of it too, like you're just never really motivated to really handle it. Like you're just like, oh, I just don't want to fucking deal with this.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It can be very taxing. I want to pivot, boys. If you're down to pivot, I don't know if we want to. I guess we can continue to float. We've been floating.
We can
float
pivot.
some more.
We can pivot.
We can pivot. I know we should probably get to, not to put a subject, at some point we should get to do the Showdown stuff really quickly, since that's going on these next 2 or 3 days.
Okay. What do we want to say about that?
We'll just maybe walk through the brackets, see predict who's going to come out of it. We can do it at the end. We can do it as like a quick little throwaway.
Well, it should be Vitality or Heroic. If any other team wins it, then they perform phenomenally well.
Okay. What do you think about the Americas? Complexity,
I don't
EG,
even know
Double
who's in the
Nation.
Americas. It's
That's
online, so I'm gonna go
online.
with Complexity.
Okay. Yanko, you want to get involved in this? This is
The American one's more exciting than the
America one. I feel
European one.
like it can be more unpredictable since it's online, but I would go whoever, like EG or 00 Nation, whoever's from that side of the bracket. Although I don't want to say 00 Nation, because I feel like because it's online, then they won't be as good. But I want to say that side of the bracket, EG or 00 Nation. And for EU, yeah, I mean,
okay.
You look at the bracket. You look at the bracket, and
it should be Vitality.
Whether it's Vitality or Heroic, the only thing I can see is potentially Sangal or Big, since it's online, messing it up for Heroic, right?
True.
But I feel like Vitality just has way too much firepower here, and if they're trying, they should be the ones to go to Royal Arena.
If it's anything like the qualifiers, then some of these teams probably will get through. Because if I remember covering this off back at the time when the teams were qualifying for the Showdown, and you take a look at the teams who were in these qualifiers, I think maybe we even spoke about it here before, and who they beat. Like, for example, Sangal come through like Gamers X EU Championship, right? And the team there that was probably meant to take that slot to compete was Fnatic, and then they bottled it against Sangal and lost 2-1, right? So then they didn't even get a chance to make it to the thing. If you look at where Ecstatic came through, in that event, Ents was there, and Ents fucking bottled it and got 2-0'd by Ecstatic. So you add those two names into the mix of this bracket, then we're starting to get a bit more excited, right? I think there was another one that went a bit odd. Yeah, there was the one that Eternal Fire qualified through, and Mouse. They were in that one, and they fucking bottled it in the same fashion, right? And then like you bring those three names in, and also, like, okay, I'm a little bit excited.
Why are they being so BM that they're putting Tai Lu in the European one? I mean, at least, give them a fighting chance, put them in the NA one, I guess.
Or at least don't seed them against Vitality.
Yeah, or that. Wow, they're actually 191 on HLTV. Wow.
What qualifier did Tai Lu come through? I guess they did because I know...
The Asian one, right?
Yeah, there was a 5E Arena Asia Cup.
The Americas one has an Australian team, don't they?
I
in
think
it?
it's it's either
Is it
Encore or it's Vertex.
Vertex.
Vertex. Okay, so they gave the American the American bracket the Australian team, and they give the European one the Asian team. Is it because is Ty Lue doing their whole like boot camp in Europe thing right now? Could that be why?
I don't know.
Probably.
It might be harder for them to get into America than it is for Australians to get into America. Or
True. Yep.
but they don't have to go to America. I guess they could have gone to like Mexico or something like that. I don't know.
Canada.
Yeah, but Malta is in that team.
Okay.
So yeah, that'll be
Cool.
interesting. They'll probably get owned. It's a hard learning curve when you go over to those events, and it's your first one. It definitely is a very, very steep hill. I guess this is the thing I wanted to pivot to, was talking about the fact that this is going to be the 18th major. And I was just like, the fact there's been 18 of these bastards, and we've all been around in Counter-Strike for longer than just that major circuit. It really, you reminisce, and it makes me feel fucking old.
And the only guy who's been at them all is dupreeh. So, round of applause.
Yeah.
Way to go, Dupes.
The last
That's
man
well
standing.
done.
Also, the child on the way. So, double congrats.
Nice.
Two.
Double congrats.
Yeah, 2 round of applause from Yanko there.
And
So
who
that's-
was it? It was Maniac who tweeted it out. It's like, are we actually underrating his career? And I think we absolutely are, if you look at it.
Well, he also has the most prize money winnings now, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. But according to that, I
Well,
think
I
that
kind of
record-keeping
stole
thing.
Chad's pivot, so I don't know if there was something.
No. This is there's a lot of things that we could talk about
It's-
from this, but I think Dupreeh's a very good starting point for it. all.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's operate under the assumption that Maniac's tweet is correct, and we are under. Like, how do you put dupreeh into context though? As he's been at the only person to have been at every single.
Well, he has a
major.
great resume, right?
Yeah, but he's not in any way like a star player at this point. Like he's been. I mean, even in the heyday of Astralis, he wasn't. You wouldn't say he was a star of that team. He was just one of the very impactful. Would
He was
you?
a top 20 player seven years.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
every
he
year
was a
except
star
for
rifler.
2016 and 2021.
But the thing about Astralis and the reason that they were dominant is because we talk about how good they were as a team. Obviously, the individuals needed to be very, very competent, right? But the thing that was exciting about Astralis and that always stole the limelight was the talk of their team play. But dupreeh always, it was like that rifler getting stuck in, and especially when Kirby was going through the team, it activated him a bit more, right? We got back he was one of those key factors as to why they were so strong. But I guess it's just, if we're looking at it from that perspective, Jason, it's just about, I guess, his career adapting over the years. Like when I had him on HTV Confirmed the other day, we were talking about this, and it gets harder. Any great game, the current day players build on the shoulders of giants. So all the people like the dupreehs, the devices, like I guess the mod, like Simples now, the Zywos now, the next generation of players are all building on what these guys are teaching them through their gameplay. And now dupreeh's at a point where he's keeping up, doing his job sufficiently within a top team, contributing in the role he's needed for within this top team. So I don't know, like in terms of his resume overall, it's got to be one of the best resumes, right? Like,
yeah, it certainly has to be.
the only other names that come into conversation are ones that have won like a shitload of MVPs and stuff, right? Like obviously Device is at the top of this mountain as well, but he's been AFK. He hasn't attended all 18 majors. So then those things come in, like the longevity of dupreeh is still going, whereas Device, we don't know. Is he coming back? If he does come back, what form is he going to be in? Is his legacy tarnished forever? Whereas dupreeh has just been consistently grinding and keeping up a top tier competitive level of Counter-Strike the entire time. So
I guess one of the next closest would be Xyp9x as well, because I think this failure to qualify for Astralis is what took him off that list as well.
And Shox, they were the last 3 coming into
Shox.
this. Yeah, and Shox didn't even make it through the RMRs. And then obviously Astralis have this config situation which assisted in their demise. So
And Xyp9x has been playing cliffhanger, I feel like, in this roster since its inception, really.
All right, here's a take for you.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'll save this for a little bit later. Just remind me about Xyp9x since we're still talking about the majors, right?
we could talk about Xyp.
Whatever you want, bro.
I was gonna say, Xyp9x, if he doesn't make like the Apex move, or if he doesn't pick up the IGL mantle, like he doesn't have he's out. Like who's he's gonna have the way of like Shox or someone who goes to like Apex or teams like that. Like who's gonna pick up Xyp9x? And I don't mean this to knock him. I just feel like he's past his best years. right? When it comes to being like this super solid anchor on CT side, and
In
then
modern day, there's better options, right?
and then an amazing clutcher on T side. There's like better options, right? But what does he have? A wealth of experience. Obviously, a very poised player. Seems like a calm personality too. Smart guy. So those are all traits that could be great for an in-game leader, right? If it's something that he would be willing to do, or he feels like he can learn, or maybe knows doing. He spends so much time around Glaive and Zonic too, right? So I feel like that's a way for him to extend his career at the tier 1 level. Sure, he can play for other teams, probably at the lower level, right? It's at least how I feel about it right now.
Yeah.
I don't know where he would go as a pivot, because I personally don't think he's got it as an in-game leader. I think if you wanted to have the conversation about the value he could bring to like a veteran presence of a younger team, even that I would kind of be on the fence about. Like I'd actually, if I think about this in like detail, I'd actually be pretty concerned about where he goes next, because I don't even know if he has like that same kind of like strong motivational personality that could actually assist. Like I don't know if that would bring enough benefit to a younger team.
It's unfortunate the way it's gone for him when you compare to the players we were just talking about in dupreeh and Magisk, for example, right? Because the demise of the team, there was obviously like shuffling around of players and whatnot towards the tail end, and the 6-man roster situation and all of that bullshittery that went on, and all of that, I suppose. But it feels like dupreeh and Magisk saw the writing on the wall in that time, and they jumped on from something that wasn't completely ruined yet, right? Because at that point, the Astralis reputation wasn't completely ruined. It was definitely part of its decline. They went and moved to something that was strong but heading in the upward direction, right? Whereas Astralis was strong, but they could see the downslide. Whereas Zip and Glaive have stuck around for this. Maybe some of the roster changes have been out of their hands. Maybe there have been some pickups that have happened. Maybe there's been bad scouting. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And now they find themselves in this team that's completely broken. So for poor Zip, his career ends up in this direction because he made a bad choice. Looking at the way that the team was going. And in terms of where he can find himself going forward, I don't know. Like, this is one of the things, because you either join a team in the capacity you're talking about, Jason, as like the elder statesman coming in to provide the experience, but that team needs to be on the way up. They still need to be motivated. You're not coming in to motivate this team and be the factor.
You'd be the Hobbit, right? The Hobbit brought into Cloud9.
And you're just going to come in and you're going to do your job and you're going to contribute, right?
I know, but it just sounds so ridiculous. Like,
but in the other version, though, there's 2 more versions. Like, they continue to hang on to these tattered pieces, and it continues to fall apart in their hands, and it just gets worse and worse. Or they do a complete rebuild, and as part of the complete rebuild, Zip's probably not the man you're keeping over there at Astralis, so that means he has to go somewhere else. So then that organization needs to be one of, some value to be able to pay him, and he needs to be able to pick some players who are then going to be keen. And then on top of that, he needs to work extremely hard to reinvent himself in that position. So it's like, it's up to his work ethic, I suppose, and if he wants to keep doing this, because Zip's been fucking going forever, mate.
He'd have to branch out and really do something for a team that he hasn't done yet in his career. And that's what worries me. I just hope he's getting paid, because I hope Astralis just has to keep giving him them paychecks. He ain't. All I know is he's never coming to an agreement to cancel that contract.
Well,
didn't he sign like
a couple of fights?
Didn't he sign like a 4-year contract like a year ago or something like that, or a year and a half ago?
I think so, yeah.
3 years, yeah.
He's got a decent contract left as well. It's hefty. Here's a question, since if you want to talk about like Zipix kind of being dragged down with the Astralis/Titanic situation, obviously Glaive has way more options in terms of in-game leadership, and he'd probably be a valuable piece that Astralis is going to keep. But do you think this demise of Astralis, of like the legend of Astralis, how tarnished it is the moment, tarnishes Glaive's legacy as an individual in any way?
Just this patch. I don't think anything detracts from like the legacy. Are you saying the way it is now like sullies what they...
Like does he like, if as a player that you would want that you would value as an in-game leader on a team, does the fact that this Astralis has come like so crumbling down? Because like, before Astralis went on this downward trajectory...
are you talking about his stock or his legacy?
Let's say stock. Legacy's probably. I don't think anyone can touch that. I don't think we could ever touch like the greatest.
I'll mention that later. I'll have
Okay.
a question for you later.
Cool. All right.
But you go ahead first, Chad.
I think his stock is hurt because of the players that he's had available to him now, and they haven't been able to make a success. Now, whether that's out of his hands or not, it still devalues him because like he's made the choice to stay at this organization, right? He re-signed with them. He you know, I know the saying goes, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. But sometimes the writing's on the wall with these things, and we've been talking about for years some of the hand-on nature for some of these teams, and it always seems to work immediately. Like the confirmation bias that I think Astralis got by adding Blame F and Config to the team, and then going on and having that good run in Copenhagen, going, oh shit, we just made the right call. Our boys went deep on home turf where the crowd was yelling which bomb site the other team was going to. That confirmation bias right there probably made them think that was a good roster change. But I was always pretty lukewarm on that from the beginning. And all the stuff that happened in the online period with the 6-man roster stuff, like some of these signings make no sense. They bring Bubsky in and then they don't end up using him. And now Bubsky would have been the perfect piece for them still to have when they have Config out and they need an aggressive rifler, or they had Zyphon on the Astralis talent roster. Anyway, I'm going everywhere. We were just talking about Glaive. But yeah, he decided to stick around at this team. So definitely the stock's not good at the moment.
Yeah, I think his stock is down, and not just because of the results and him staying on Astralis. I think also you look at how the game is being played right now. Like you guys will remember, right? You remember how Astralis was so good in 2018. They were by the book, utility, and so on and so on. And then I don't know if it was 2019, I guess, when they started just... The problem is they were so by the book, it became predictable. Like they would always just do things the correct way, right? So teams started taking advantage of that against them. They started playing a sort of a more wild style, so they can't really make their reads that they were so good at. So they started just playing, giving individuals a little bit more freedom, right? Not always playing together and so on, just to make it a little bit different. And switch it up. And obviously, since it's not their natural style, they had mixed success with it, but it was something that I agree that they had to try and do. So I'm not sure if, the way the things are now, where players have a lot of, you have great individual players on any team that wants to be the best, and you have to give those players a lot of freedom and improvise a bit more in terms of calling, right? And not always like have these set endings that you're going for. Like, I'm not saying Glaive can't do it, but that's not his like forte, So it's...
But the motivation might not be there for him to want to like build that stuff anyway, right? Because if you're thinking about it, Yanko, if you're like the boss if you get told that you're the boss, or you're in the boss position like he is, like in a team like this, and he's not getting players that he wants to even start to build a system.
Yeah, it's like 10 guys, you made me the boss of like, a shit unit. Yeah.
So it's like, it's probably very demotivating in that way. Like I just talking about the headline from that article a couple of weeks ago was just saying like, the decisions management make you just got to try and qualify and hold your spot, right? I guess that could be talking about within the team.
That was such a damning interview when I read that. I think we talked about that in the last episode.
Yeah,
well.
It's just out of their hands, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing when you think about like those things right there. As an in-game leader, you either have to get with the program or you have to like be the program, right? Which is why the best teams, normally the coach and the in-game leader, will have a really strong relationship on how they want to approach the game. And use the players and everything, or you have a really strong coach and then he can dictate. Like I feel like,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I feel like Cloud9. I was gonna bring up your favorite team again, Yanko. They have like a really strong coaching with Groove, and you can tell that just with the vetoes. Like if the coach is the one literally determining the veto, I'm sure there is a conversation with Nafany at some point. But the one who's the authority figure to do that, then he's definitely dictating the type of game plan and stuff. I feel like the Blades and the Grooves of the world, those are two of, I don't know how many coaches we'd put close to their style of coaching, who are actually playing like chess with their players, right? They're like playing like the high level look down, and the coaches are the one making those moves. Where in a lot of these other teams, I still think it's the in-game leaders doing a lot of the work.
Yeah, and I think also something that is probably underestimated and probably looked over is the fact how much it hurt Glaive to lose Zonic.
Yeah.
Ever since Zonic Club, he never really had a stable sort of a coach that ever felt like they got that dynamic going, or as simple as figured things out for the team, Counter-Strike wise, right? So then there's a lot more weight on just his shoulders to figure everything out and to prepare the team and to prepare the players, maybe even.
And he had a baby during COVID.
Yeah,
You know, he had a lot on his plate.
A lot of babies, man, popping left, right, and center. But yeah, so I think there were a couple of things that happened that probably hurt him. But this is the question for you, Jason, now.
Okay.
Because talking about Glaive's legacy, so if FaZe wins the major, and with that they win 2 majors, they win the Grand Slam, they win Katowice and Cologne, and
a pro league.
They won a pro league as well on top of all of that, and there's 2 tournaments left. Do you think like he surpasses Glaive as the best in-game leader to ever do it, karrigan?
Ooh, that's really tough.
I mean, without a doubt, it's the best year that team has ever had. It's the most historic year in CS.
Well, I think the more interesting topic on that, because I agree, I think it would be probably the best year any team's ever had in Counter-Strike, but it would be interesting to do like a comparison, like what we did, Chow, with the old school major stuff. Would be, who would win 2022 FaZe or like 2018? Yeah, the time travel land. Like compare those 2 rosters. I don't know, because I think a lot of it depends on who you are, like what you kind of value. Because I think you could probably make the argument already that karrigan has overtaken or is the better in-game leader than Glaive, right? Like you probably could make that argument at the moment. Well, I certainly know Duncan would. Duncan would make that argument.
Well, the best dynasty, right? The best dynasty is the Astralis dynasty, right?
Yeah, but I guess that's what I mean. It would matter like how much you value the major trophies and those kinds of championships in terms of that pedigree. So for me, I very much value those like championships and the majors when it comes to being the greatest players of all time. So I would still have Glaive up there, even if karrigan won both majors this year. But I think on a career level, like some of the teams that karrigan's been able to step into and immediately make improvements, if you just want to talk about in-game leader and leadership abilities and making a team of different parts better than what it was before you get there, I think karrigan, if you take away the trophies, hands down is a better in-game leader than Glaive. But Glaive's got the hardware.
Chad?
I don't know. This is a conversation where I need the resumes up. There's so many things that go into this conversation, right?
Yeah, but you're just like, I'm just asking from the top of your head how you feel about it, right? Like, obviously, the differences. Glaive has all the majors, but karrigan has had, like Jason pointed out.
Well, what sells it for me, because I mean, you just had the conversation about Glaive and having a tough time adapting to the new style of play. I think karrigan is a player who's been able to come into all the different metas and all the different styles of play, and plenty of different teams, and make them look at what he did with Mouse towards the end of 2019. They won like 5 straight events at the end of the year, and nobody even had them as potential like contenders throughout most. Like they looked like hell. He came in and he made one like little roll switch with Frozen, and all of a sudden they were off to the races. I think he made the old Danish roster before he got cut. He took over from Fetish and turned them in from just being a defensive powerhouse to adding a layer of offense on the T sides that made them extremely dangerous and put them in that like triangle of doom with TSM, Fnatic, and I think it was like the Titans, I would imagine it would be back then. So, I mean, I think, karrigan's probably just taken more teams to being a dangerous squad out of nowhere and shown that he can do it with multiple different kinds of players and multiple different kinds of styles.
I still ask the question, Jason, what you value more though, right? Because
I'd value the hardware when it comes to the greatest of all time. So Glaive having those majors.
It's not even just that, right? Like you're bang on when you're talking about like developing players or teams into either winning trophies or be of trophy winning caliber, right? Like that. So when we're looking at karrigan's career, we're looking at most of the career. We're not just looking at this tail end right now with what he's doing. You're factoring in other things. With the Glaive career, we're not really looking at what came before Astralis, and we're looking now because we have the recency bias of what's happening now with Astralis, but for basically a 2-year period, and the Astralis as a team, so this is the thing as well, how much of that do you put on Glaive, developed the blueprint for how modern Counter-Strike is played, right? They refined a lot of key details of Counter-Strike that were either being used inefficiently before or maybe just not being looked at in the way they should, and that's what Astralis defined. Now, if you put a lot of that thought on Glaive, right, which I don't know, but if you do, then you would be basically saying that the way that he helped progress Counter-Strike has left a mark on how it is played today. Can you say the same thing about karrigan, right? I can say that he's a very good leader at using the pieces available to him. He's a very good leader in terms of being able to get these teams up to a very high competitive standard. And then in converting, this has been the year where he's really brought all of those chooks home to roost, right? Because he's been winning. It's a very good year in terms of that cabinet. So you're talking about the way he's developed players. You look at Glaive, you're talking about the way that he used a set of players to go and win the most majors of all time and be dominant for basically 2 years and define how the game was played. And it took teams that long to catch up, and actually maybe some of their own demise for them to start getting toppled on a regular basis. And from that I don't know. I don't know which criteria I weigh as more. I'm having a very difficult time, but I'm trying to get down to the bottom of what defines them, right?
I think these kinds of conversations are fun, but I think the problem with them is I feel like the participants in it usually, I think we're doing a good job right now, but the participants in them usually have like
Jason.
It's it's like almost like there's like a miscommunication just due to like the definitions you're using, right? Like, do you want to make the argument if someone's the best of all time or the greatest of all time? Like for me, there's a huge distinction. And I think sometimes that gets muddied to a certain degree during these comparisons.
I think for me, it's as simple as I need if that happens this year, I still need more from karrigan. I'd need FaZe to be like a contender next year as well and win some big tournaments. It doesn't even have to be a major, but they have to be like up there, competing for titles, win a couple of big ones, maybe, Cologne again and a fall final or, something along those lines, maybe one major out of the two and one big event. And then I'm putting him over it because, yeah.
What about this, Janko? Let me ask you a question here, and you keep building on your point. Name me one famous sprinter.
Usain Bolt, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
name
Jesse Owens.
Well, no. Who else is Asafa Powell?
Okay. Name me one famous marathon runner.
Oh, something. Yeah, I know he's from Ethiopia.
Okay, so we can't get the name. So here's my point. There you go. You can remember a guy who did it quick, but the guy who did it over a long period of time, he's not as famous. So you just not happy with the splash in the pan from FaZe here?
No, yeah, that's the thing, because then it would be just this one amazing year where they won a lot of really big trophies. Of course, he's won a few others with FaZe too, right? But there's also been a lot of, that's great. You managed to get a team like Maus to a good level and win a couple of tournaments at the end of 2019 with them. TSM, he definitely improved that team. But, then you also have the Boston final, right? Like, compare the Boston final to the Atlanta final, the E-League majors, right? In Boston, FaZe and karrigan, they can't get over the hump, right? And close it out on T-side Inferno. In Atlanta, Astralis does it on T-side Train in the third map, and also being down, like they had to win a lot of rounds on T-side because VP had the first T-side round.
I don't want to talk about
obviously, that. Obviously, it's different. Like it's different. Like gate patches and whatnot, different teams and so on and so on. And I'm not even saying but that's the body of work that's out there. I think it's an interesting sort of a discussion, right? But me personally, I would need just a little bit more from karrigan, even though it's probably been harder for him to achieve the successes that he has achieved. But Glaive just has still way more. And also, people forget about Glaive. Initially, he was in Western Wolves, which was one of the first teams to challenge NAP in 2013, right? So there's a little bit there for him too. Then he just was a bit crazy probably for a year or two, and luckily got the break with Astralis later on. But yeah,
here's a question for you, Janko. Who's the greater player, or the greatest of these two players, Simple or Device?
This is the same type of conversation.
Same type of conversation.
No, it's similar but not the same, because you're talking about individual players, and Simple is the greatest player. Device at the moment probably still is the most accomplished player.
Yeah. See, that's where I would have a difference in terms of vocabulary, because I would say Device is the greater player, but Simple's the better player. Simple's obviously the best player in terms of his skills, but you can't fuck with Device's majors.
Yes, but it's a team game, and you can't win a trophy on your own.
Yeah, but isn't the fact that, I don't know. See, that's where I kind of have a hard time.
It's like saying, dude, I think for example, I think Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Tom Brady, but Tom Brady is the greatest ever in terms of success because he has
Yeah.
the most rings. But it's a game that there's so many factors involved.
Right,
like you
right.
can't win or lose on your own. That's why he's my favorite guy to watch, because what he can do on the field, like the types of throws, for example, he can make, the types of shots Simple can make, and the types of things he can do on the server, that's what I want to watch. Like, I want to watch greatness. I don't want to watch fucking Brady check it down like all the time because his defense is going to pull another stop, right? Like, you know, so
Yeah.
that, I think that's the same. Like, no one can argue with Device's accomplishments, but, you know, everyone knows Simple is a better player.
I think with this angle, Jason, if Device comes back, right, and he gets to perform in a team that isn't just a system, right? Because Counter-Strike's definitely changed from the heyday of when
Yes.
Astralis were doming. There's a lot more quick decision making done, the constant info plays. Not saying that Device can't keep up with any of that, but if he can flourish in that type of an environment and come back and be in a team where, I'm not saying he has to put up more kills, but maybe he's a little bit more flashy, right?
Yeah.
Then you can start having that type of conversation. But I think this is the thing. I still think like Simple, the way that I look at this is there's like a baseline for what most players should be able to do. Like when we're casting and we're watching a guy holding an angle, if somebody steps out dry in this angle, right, like there's always a chance someone could look at their radar or they quick switch to a thing at the wrong time. But, you know, you look at this angle, yeah, this guy should hit this shot, right? Like that's the kind of baseline. But then you get into the absurd, the crazy, the guy who has like the really good mechanics with the pre-fire or the great jiggles or this, that, and the other. But the greats, like the reason that the Zywus and the Simples are on an echelon of their absolute own,
They
is
break out of that mold.
it's that freak bullshit that they just pull from absolutely nowhere that makes us all just like open our mouths and not quite believe what we see. Because in this situation, we understand the puzzle. All right, let's use Zywu at Tetris, for example, with that round where he gets the ace with the P250, right? As far as this puzzle goes, this type of a round on Mirage, with where it's planted, the whole situation, the fact that he has to get all 5 kills, if they just took their time, like, and baited out the first fight and then slowly closed down, they should win that type of a round. But because of the way they played it and Zywu seeing all those mistakes just visualized in front of him, it just becomes bang, 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 everybody dead. Right, but they in that situation, they had to give him the opportunity to pull off that greatness. And even in that opportunity, where a lot of players might see that, they wouldn't hit all the shots like Zywu did. And those type of freak bullshit rounds is what like elevates
Happens
these guys.
to the great ones, yeah.
But Device has some of those when you think about it. Like think about that train round, for example.
Yeah, the
bang,
one
bang,
with
bang.
three.
Yeah.
What team was that against, Jason?
NRG.
You remember?
It was NRG.
Of course it was.
That's all right. They were like the North American team I didn't really like, you know?
He has those freak moments. He just doesn't get that shine, man. Like he
Yeah, I know what you mean.
and maybe because his freak moments, I don't know. It's hard to say they're not
I
as
think-
impressive, but I don't know.
I think that's probably one of the most fun conversations that I'm excited to have when Device eventually does get back into the server is like how many of the top teams at the moment have an opper who's just able to create some bullshit, like get aggressive and make a play and get a little bit crazy with it. Because that was never Device's style with the op. He was much more fundamentally sound and like mistake free, but you almost have to risk the mistakes in today's Counter-Strike to be able to have the impact the opper kind of needs to have for most teams.
Yeah, I don't know. If we get back to the point where we are having that AWPer that you're talking about, where, you know, the risks, like we have so many high level, just like insta-gibbers, right? They're out there, they're jumping around the map of a fucking Quake and bang, insta-gib. Like if we have some of those freaks of natures just jostling, like think about the amount of gaps and stuff that opens up. Probably won't happen when teams like Cloud9 are in the server, because that forces teams to play. Like when a team is playing that type of Counter-Strike, it forces you to play into that game a little bit, right? Until you can get control of the pace and the tempo, because they just have a fucking brick wall. It is wild though. When you think about Counter-Strike and like all the tempo changes and how fast it used to be and like scrimmy and people running around and the pop flashes not all being perfect and everything, like it did used to be crazy because there was a lot more uncertainty in situations. But I feel like that's a part of me, and I know they're not consistent, and I know that there's some people who, Yanko, you'll love this one, but like an Ents or a Furia or like some of these teams that can be really, really pacey, like they make some explosive and exciting Counter-Strike, and it looks a bit like more meatheadish because they're just like throwing bodies at it, but there's nuance to it with those executes, and there's like, if you're able to beat a team with pace, like if you're able to just go, your fucking top hold on nuke is dog shit. We're just going to run you over with a fucking top hut molly, a backside molly, a couple of flashes, a main smoke, and, you know, and Bob's your uncle, and just some really fast pacing and jumping around like fucking crazy people, then we're just going to smash you. And like that, we don't really talk about that element of the game, right? But that's like a mindset in Counter-Strike. Like that's never should be the percentage play, just to rush top. It doesn't feel like if you have a full gun round
Unless
on
you're
you.
Furia.
But exactly, that's my point. And that's why it's like fucking
Yeah.
madness. But Counter-Strike, when it was a bit more loosey-goosey back in the days, along these 18 majors that we've had, or 17 up until this one would be the 18th, you could get away with more pacey Counter-Strike. Like, I think about the way I used to call. I would call like these patterns because I know that how I would force the CT rotations on a map like Mirage. Like, okay, so we're going to just condition really early on Mirage on the T side. We're going to do a couple early A executes, whether we do these on the anti-ecos or whatever, just so that there's a bit of a bias towards our A hits. Then we're going to do some flowy stuff in mid. I remember this is back when the conversation with the jump smokes was a big deal and the likes of Flusher and JW were against it. And now we have it to this day used by everybody. But with this util, like we had it so that we would throw jump smokes from spawn, and I had like 3 different patterns of the mid smokes. It was like a window smoke, a con smoke, and a short smoke. But I'd throw different patterns, and we'd run different executes. And they didn't. And I would snowball against better teams when we'd come overseas for like a 6-round or like a 5-1 type of start. And it's from there that I needed to learn how to play proper default Counter-Strike with mid-round calling to keep up, because I could have the gimmicks and shit. I wish that I need some more fucking gimmicks, bro. That's where I'm going with this.
Well,
bring the gimmicks back.
That actually kind of brings in an interesting point that just kind of jogged my memory. I was thinking about it during the RMRs. Is like how many of those, like, because we always seem to have like a lot of upsets in the RMRs and around the major cycle, and like how much of that do you think like the teams obviously at the highest level from playing each other so much like know each other intimately well? Do you think there's actually like a little bit of a struggle in some of these games for the favorite opponents because these are teams they don't necessarily play against that often against? They're not used to going up against the setups, the style of rotation.
Yeah, it's a different game.
Certainly. But like is that enough of a different game, do you think, to like cause this level of upsets to come into it?
In an environment like a major and a stage and stuff. Yeah, I think so. Because I think that like, and it sounds kind of wrong for us to say it's a different game, but you're right. Like when the high level, the partner teams, I guess, are playing against Cloud9, obviously kind of the exception to that. But those like high level teams who are playing more like the chess, right? Whereas these other teams, they come in, they're playing chess as well, but they're playing, and I've only been listening to chess stuff recently. I don't get it. I don't play it. It's just pretty fascinating to me the way they talk about it. But like the different lines or the different type of openings that you could run, like those type of things can like in Counter-Strike, I feel like can run the opponent for a loop. Like if they're expecting something and you throw something completely different, or if they've prepped and they've watched your like really fast mid take and they've gone, all right, we're going to throw this flash and peek them, and you do it and you still lose. It's like, oh fuck, like we're the favorite in this environment. We had the counter, we knew what they were going to do, and they're still just bullying us. Like that stuff definitely has like flow-on effects. And I swear, man, like this is the thing. The first 6 or 7 rounds in a game, when the scoreline is always a blowout, those 6 or 7 rounds in the game go by so quick when you're playing. Like they're over in the blink of an eye. You've had 2 gun rounds in that time. Like there's some games which are close and every round's real clutchy, but in a standard game where you like, maybe you get close on the pistol, but you lose a 2v2. Then you have a force and you get 2 kills, but they sweep you up. Then you take the full eco. Then you get into the first gun round. You establish some map control. You're working out how they're playing. They maybe have a bit of a bonus round. Fuck, we lost that one. Okay, now we have to take another partial. Now you take another partial, get another kill or 2, but you get the bomb down, whatever. Then you go into the next gun. You've only played fucking 2 gun rounds in all that time. And like we're sitting here as viewers going, well, this is fucking over. Like the flow of Counter-Strike. And this is another thing. Fuck, I'm going on some tangents. We need the round timeline back on the ESL broadcasts, because Counter-Strike getting told as a round by round thing, that's fine. But the flow of a game of Counter-Strike is so important. Like, well, at least I think it's important. I feel like
I agree.
Patterns of rounds and
is.
pacing and, you know, I feel like we lose that. We don't have the round timeline up to explain to the viewers. It kind of sucks.
We could bring it back. We can make that point. We could certainly bring it back.
And I think also, well, I guess where you were initially going with this pivot, Chad, was to talk about, you know, how things were back, you know, how much we've improved and how much the game has changed and all of this stuff.
I was just going to talk about staying in a farm stay house and having to walk into a city in the middle of Jönköping and hire a red van where we went to the very first major, and we didn't even get out of the BYOC because we got put in the main stage of the thing and lost to Cadian's team. It was sad.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, but for me, what I was gonna say is, I think one of the reasons for that is like the economy change was massive. Like I would bring that down. I think it's just silly when you add that to the saving and so on. Like a team that's coming back on the T side, they have to win so many gun rounds. It's like not even fair, really. You know.
Yeah, less break rounds in there.
I guess mine would be like you have max loss bonus, right? And you win a round. It doesn't go from 3,400 to 2,900. It goes to like 1,900, you know, or 2,400. Like you take it down by 2 notches every time you win a round, because if you like, you've lost a round, you get 2,900, but let's say it's a Dust 2 game where your B guy died to a B pop, and you were more focused on doing something on mid, they got good timing, and you save 4 guns, and then you get 2,900, right? Because you won the previous round, and it goes back to 3,400. It's like, well, you just have like so much money when you're on the CT side, right?
Can I ask a question, Janko?
That would also, I think, maybe get teams to try retakes maybe a little bit more, because if you look at your money and you're going to be at 2,400, even if you save, it's like a bit more difficult, or 1,900 if you want to try the extreme option first, or whatever, right? I think that could help a little bit with all the saves all the time, which are getting boring.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question from this direction with what you're talking about, with maybe not even like speculating on changes of the economy, but the way that the current economy has affected the game, and this is for you as well here, Jason. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Is the thought that by having more rounds where it's likely more heavily invested rounds, right? I won't say buy rounds, because the whole definition of what a gun round and an anti-eco and an eco used to
we need to
be,
change all our vocab. We need to have a powwow with everyone, don't we?
Yeah, because it's all changed now. Like the game has evolved so much that these things are all a little bit different. But that's the symptom of some of these economy changes, and it obviously reflects in the buy patterns and obviously the saves and whatnot. But there's also like there's a clear mix in certain games where a team can win a round with like 2 or 3 rifles, an SMG, and a 5.7, right? So the question I was going to ask is, do you think that this adjustment, by giving us more rounds where sizable investments can either be saved or made, have forced teams to become more creative? Because it feels like now you need more moves, like you need more strategy, more options within rounds. Like it feels like it's just created a need for surplus in those categories. Does that make sense?
I think it does, like, because it takes time to catch on, right? Like, you remember how forced buys were back in the day, Chad. Like, a guy would
just
peek
mid-deagle
with a as CT on Inferno, right? And if he doesn't kill the guy, unlucky, and all of a sudden you're 4v5. I mean, you remember that Apex round, again, that has a graffiti? Like, that was him in overtime deciding to peek with an op, the one op that they had when he knew the guys were going to be waiting for him. Like, he already gave up, kind of, because he gave up a huge comeback. So you would never see that. So we've evolved past that. And there's definitely a lot more micro moves, like, with this smoke and a flash coming right behind it, or a molly flash play and whatnot, right? Which is, again, why I think, like, the reset in money should be good. Like, you should be rewarded for winning an important round where money is low, right? Like, that would encourage discipline, because there's a higher punishment, there's a higher consequence for you losing 2 guns to a Glock eco because you were like chasing eco kills, right? So you pad your stats or whatever. It would put more pressure. I don't think we should go back to 1,400. That was ridiculous, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But this way, like, you make it a little bit more interesting. And also, to some extent, if people decide to eco more, or they have to go for these moves early in rounds in order to have a chance against better buys, well, that would also help a little bit with time of games, right? Like, the games are so long because it's always gun round after gun round. Then the gun round itself, it's long. Then you have the save. Then you have 2 saved guns and 3 pistols. The pistols maybe try to do, or whatever, things don't work out, and you save those 2 guns again. It's like getting like pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think save culture in Counter-Strike is obviously getting a little bit out of control with how much it's happening, in my opinion. But I think too, I don't necessarily think that it's like, to answer your question, Chad, on if it like makes teams have a few more plans. I don't think it's like causing teams to come up with like new tricks or new plans. I think it's just forcing teams to consider every single round as a gun round, so that you just kind of use the same kind of tricks and plans you have. Like, you have to treat it like a gun round if you're defending against it, because it can so quickly spiral out of control in any kind of a situation. If you're on the other side, you have a good chance of winning them because it's so strong. I think what I hate the most is, this is why I always talk about whenever there's an update to the economy, I think the worst thing Counter-Strike can do sometimes is fuck with the economy in order to try and find balancing changes. Because we like, the joke is that we still call this like the new economy, despite the fact that it's been out for like 3 or 4 years now. Like this like kind of
2018.
Yeah, it's been
Yes,
around
it was
so
a
long.
month after I started coaching.
But now, good time for you to switch. But
Yes.
like we're not even really feeling like this. These past like 4 months, 5 months is like really when we've really started to feel some of like the late stage consequences of it. So look how far down the rabbit hole we've gone before we realize like this change, combined with the fact that they've been increasing the effectiveness of SMGs and pistols, have now made every single round viable in terms of playing it like a gun round, and every single weapon important to save. So there is a lot less risk taking. And I mean, this is just the optimization of the game, but now we're kind of in a world where you're almost talking about what more changes to the economy can we make to fix the economy. And I feel like that's going to take us down a dangerous path again.
Yeah, well, I think like the game in terms of the way it plays now, I think the biggest issue is the excessive saves from some of those example games, like the Dust 2 game where I think it was Vitality.
Oh my
versus
God,
Outsiders,
that
right?
I had to work so hard in that game.
Yeah,
I've had to work that hard to cast a game in so long.
That's the extreme outlier in the sense of this is how bad it can get, and then you have the other side of the like super fast games that are just like real biffy and in your face, right? And you have those two kind of comparisons right there. And here's the thing, like in the way the game it can be played, right? It doesn't have to be played. People can play the game in whichever they want, but a way that is, you know, by the book or ABC Counter-Strike or percentages, however you want to frame it, from that angle, like the play that they're making by going for those type of saves is the right play. And that factors back into what you were saying, Jason, that every round is equally as important. So why would I give up all these goodies right now when I can try again next round and have a fresh start and a clean slate? Like, it makes sense. But I think what we need to try and do is work out different ways to either like to dissuade this type of behavior, or at least incentivize other types of behavior, right? So like
we need to incentivize going for retakes more, or decentivize saving as much.
When
right?
you think about the bomb change on Inferno, for example, right now, this is the thing. We'd need to do some form of a study on the map and take a look at like late round situations. Have there been more kills or not with the bomb radius change comparatively, right? Because that change forces you significantly further away from the bomb sites depending on where you've planted, which in theory could activate the CTs to be closer on exit to do more damage financially, which would then put emphasis and excitement on a different facet of the round, right? It would bring more light to the economy discussion because of how much they're punishing and then playing more forward. Now, like I said, we would need to do a study statistically to see if that has been the case, or maybe that's still something that is yet to happen with these changes. But is that a way, right? This is the thing. We're thinking of ways, and I'm with you, changing the economy is a very slippery slope. You think about the small changes that we do make or have made, and the massive ramifications that they've eventually had. No one solves the puzzle immediately. Nobody understands how something is going to be fully and truly used immediately. We start flirting with the different ideas of what was possible and how it could be implemented. I think the most recent example that people should look at is the dropping of nades, which is getting refined and tweaked and made better and better in a whole different bunch of ways, right? Teams are using it on different maps in unique ways, right? And we're still learning and seeing that evolving. So with this type of situation, if the question that we're wanting to answer is how do we minimize saving, because I don't think we can maximize going for all retakes. It just wouldn't make sense in all the scenarios, right?
No,
but how can we make the end of a round more active in theory? So like if you know, and this is one of the things, this is one of the factors, there was like that Cloud9 retake, I think it was against FaZe, right? And Rops was in Boiler, right? And FaZe were in the site and they had executed in B and the bomb was down, everything was good. And Cloud9 were coming for the retake and they made no noise. And in this situation, traditionally, Cloud9 would be saving. They were down a man, they wouldn't go for the retake. But they were already in ruins and they were close CT. So they just waited for an unforced error. And then they found the unforced error and Rops wasn't in a position to rotate there in time and win the round. They did something a little bit more unorthodox. Well, the thing is, with those changes, I feel like those bomb changes could have played in. Because if you're Cloud9 at that point of the game, you know you can hang around. They have to exit. They can't just stay anywhere close. So if you stay close, maybe they overstep and start looking for space to start saving, and then they slip up and you find that kill and you're back in. So like, I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm saying, is there an answer that is outside the box of just changing the economy into changing this part of the game so it's more enjoyable? I feel like that's the angle we should be looking at with this.
I have two ideas. One I think was brought up by someone else. I think it was either actually you and Matt, or was it Matt and Get Right on Twitter during Pro League or during the RMR, saying if like the CT side saves, you only get like a percentage of the loss bonus. Did you hear that one at all, or am I just making that up?
A percentage of the loss bonus. Yeah. Yeah, but I guess as well, then that like
That changes
what
the
flow-on
economy, though.
effects does that have? Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other one I just kind of popped into my head while you were talking, and so this might be laughable and not even worth discussing in any way. But it just came to me was what if you like this kind of messes with the economy? What if you increase the kill reward after a round end, after like a bomb explosion, or after like the 6 seconds of a round timer? What if you like tripled it? Or quadrupled it and said, if you get one of these kills instead of $300, you're getting $1,200. So it'd actually make it worth it to go for some of those kills in different situations.
That'd be one way to do it. Like you're kind of putting a bounty on their heads regardless, right? You can't win the
and
round,
saying
but you can still
you can't
fuck
win.
them.
Maybe you set up for exits. You get a little bit more money. Oh, you need $800 to really drop your teammate that M4. How tantalizing is that going into round 14? Like if you made that, I wonder if that would increase some motivation to maybe, even if you're going to save, stick around and go for the kills for the money, or to obviously to just set up for more exits.
That's interesting. I wonder if you could do something where, like, because I think if the bomb goes off and the T's exit and you kill them, it's not them dying after time, right? Because the round's already expired.
Yep.
Okay. So like, imagine if that mechanism wasn't in place. Like you could kill T's as the bomb went off, which would then force them to start exploring for safe places to save, like their rifles at the end of a round earlier, right? It would make them more active, which might open up more gaps for CTs to go in. Because the thing is, the reason we talk about some of these scenarios like Be on Dust 2 is because once you're in, you don't really have to leave, right? Like if you're on enough HP, you just go over towards car and you can live at car when the bomb goes
That's
off.
absurd. Yeah, that one's fucking insane.
So if we can incentivize the need to start looking for an escape to the site, because right now the objective is taking the site, right? But if we can look for a way to incentivize the need to leave the site after to
leave earlier, yeah,
it might open the opportunity for more retakes.
I mean, you can also just potentially, let's say, mark an area in the site where you just take 100 damage. I mean, if you're in the site when the bomb goes off. So that's
like
way,
more Valorant, right?
I don't know. I've never played it.
I think it's more I think if you're caught in the radius of the Valorant thing, you die regardless, I think.
Right? So it forces you to, like, go out. But this is also kind of fucked, because imagine if you're winning a CT and the T's are losing and they're finally, like, get a good round in, right? And, the CTs don't want to retake, but then the T's have to push out just to stay alive, even though they won the round easy on paper. And then you have guys coming through window. There's just an op sitting in CT, like, to get an easy kill there. And there's guys posted outside tunnels. And then, you're 5-0 down, you won your first gun round, and then you lost all your players, or maybe you have one guy left alive who isn't the operator, and then you go into your reset round with, everyone having to rebuy and probably not having an op. Like, that would suck. Like, why are you punishing the team that...
Well, but it would change would change the dynamic of the game, though, right? Like, because you're looking at that with the confines of how it is now. But like what we're saying, because that would now become a whole part of the game. Yeah. Like it would become a whole new thing. As like, okay, boys, we've taken all this space. Maybe we need to save one smoke so we can smoke, and maybe one guy stay on the site, and 3 of us will try and get out or some shit. Like I don't know. Like I'm just trying to flirt with different ideas of how we could keep, because a minute and
changing
55
the incentive
seconds,
structure so that people that actually are motivated to do something and be active in the final. When you're potentially just trying to save.
Then there'd be less dead moments, right? Yeah. And it would add more potential strategy to the game. Now, whether or not it would play out in a positive or negative way, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of situations like you're talking about there, Yanko, that are more than possible and probably will happen. But if like that's acknowledged, because this is what I do. Like I know a lot of people get up in arms about this, and the pros will do it every single time. And I think this is their way of saying, hey, we need a change, but they don't vocalize it in that way. So people complain about something being overpowered, right? Like at the moment, it's the Silenced M4. Before it was the Krieg and the AUG, and then back was the CZ75 and the Tech 9 got nerfed, and the Revolver doesn't come into this conversation because that was just a fucking meme. But like, there's things that get to like they're in the height of their power at one point in the game, and that weapon helps define the way the game is approached. But people, like for one reason or another, do not like the reason, right? Or don't like the outcome of how that is affecting the game. Like remember when Tech 9s and 5.7...
Or don't like change in general.
That's true as well. But it's like when the T side, when we had Kriegs, right, on the T side, it was just fucking rockin' sockin' robots just coming out and bopping people. Like T side, there'd just be a couple of good flashes, and if you had good aimers, you just run into space and you would just drill some heads because you were so confident in this weapon at all ranges, right? And that dictated that T sides, I don't know, I guess we'd have to check the stats again, would probably have been stronger back then than what they are now, where the Silenced M4. But this is the meta we're in. Like, that's the way, if I was a player, I would look at it. But as a pundit or someone looking at the broader game like we are, we can say, is this the type of gameplay that we enjoy right now? Right? Because another thing that's playing into the save conversation, Yanko, that you're bringing up is the CTs. If they keep 2 players alive and they're on max loss bonus, or well, near max loss bonus, right? Like if they're getting 2,900 into the next round as loss bonus, just save 2 M4s and you can drop 2 more M4s, you can have 4 M4s. So is that an issue, right? Is the fact that, right, on that type of a loss bonus round, the players can still have 4 M4s with only 2 guys staying alive, right? And then they probably got nades on a couple of them as well, and 1 guy with an MP9. Does that mean that the cost of this M4 should go up so it's it's not attainable? If you just made it 3K, if you took it from 2.9 to 3K, then with that loss bonus at the end of that round, unless you got a kill or saved an extra $100, you wouldn't be able to drop that rifle. Like that kind of middle ground between the 2 loss bonuses is maybe a thought right there on the M4 price, right?
I think we've gone down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's
with this one, because it's also the problem right now. You have to talk about, well, what about the 95% of the player base, which is casual players, who are going for it every time, and
sure.
Why are you punishing them and making them play with more FAMASs instead of M4s, right? So again, like, this is like where Jason, like, every time with the economy, it's fucking like you have to be super, not just careful,
effect,
but yeah, the butterfly effect, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider, but we've almost done an hour and 45 minutes, lads.
Yeah.
So this one's actually flown by. I wanted to get into like fun anecdotes about our first majors, and like that we're going into the.
We can do that. We can do that next week. We can do that.
Yeah, that, and also I know, Chad, because you wanted to not discuss what happened at Flow Fire League and DreamHack
Rotterdam, ESL Challenger,
ESL Challenger Rotterdam. So we'll have to go back to that in the next one.
I don't know, man. I don't feel like we always need to be the like we're on top of the recent news type of guys.
Sometimes you because I know you don't give a fuck about those tournaments.
Sometimes I just want to talk about some fun stuff, man. I want to and I watch those events. Look, you want some sad news? I'm in that like fantasy league on HLTV with some of the other talent, right? And we have a group chat on Twitter, but I don't know. People who know me know that I'm really bad at like reading things and replying. It's just like I'm just not a very good adult, right? Like that's.
You have to, at this stage in your life, you got to prioritize the different messaging things you're involved in, But
there's sometimes, like, I'm so lethargic as a human being, I literally just don't want to move because I'm a slug. But, like, anyway, I'm getting a little bit off topic here. But, fuck, where was I going? What was I talking about?
Fantasy thing.
Yeah.
Bad at responding to
messages. I didn't read the group, and they all had, like, a gentlemanly agreement not to do the fantasy team for those 2 events because I guess they didn't want to play it, right? So they all agreed not to. So I played it, and I only found out when I was doing HLTV Confirmed with Prof the other night when he mentioned it. I was like, oh shit, well, I'm owning it right now. Like, I came top 1% with my fantasy team in 5. I think I came like 45th. Wait, I don't know where. I came 25th in the world out of almost 8,000 people, right? So I got max points for that. And then the other one, the Rotterdam one, I was like top 14%. So I got a shitload. So I'm top of the ladder now, but it doesn't fucking count because I didn't realize we weren't playing it. So like, I'm a bit sad. I didn't want to talk about those events.
I need HLTV to create a better fantasy system, and then we can run the world. Then we can. Speaking as an American, we can create $1 billion industry off Counter-Strike fantasy.
We need to do something with the Shadow GG or like something like that top down where it like. It actually plays out a match of some variety, right? There needs to be an interactive part to the fantasy, because
that's easy. I know of multiple companies doing that already, Chatty. I got
Then we just need to work out like the mechanisms of how to make all of that possible here. We might need to involve AI, but like you probably could do it where it could simulate matches. Just like imagine if you took every simple demo from a year on Dust 2, like this thing had access to the database, and the AI my team was. I went simple as the star player, but then I had like a couple of like guys that were less expensive because my budget was pretty low. I had, I don't know, fucking Chopper in game leading. I had Siren as a site anchor. I spent a little bit more money. I got fucking Yakinder and I don't know, Crad, right? And it took like the last 20 demos from all of those players or whatever on those maps and then averaged out their performances and and it plays out like some rounds against your opponent. We need maybe someone who knows AI can formulate that because then if you win, like you make money in like little mini tournaments. That's the type of fantasy shit that I'd be looking to do because the fantasy stuff at the moment is predicting how well they're about to do at this event, right? I think that's
it's very basic.
Yeah, I want someone to get a whole AI out and recreate the internet. Actually, that's what I'm looking for.
Amen,
Cool.
brother.
I'll get right on that.
All right, boys, we done?
I think we're done.
All
We're
right,
done.
let's say goodbye.
GG's.
Bye.
Goodbye.